I actually lived here 10 years ago. And when we were looking to buy a house, I was just like, hey, let's look here. And we found this little house and we're like, oh, awesome, right near the marsh, near the beach. And then we were like, oh no. The day we moved in, our neighbor came over and was like, oh, did you see this? And it was pictures of the flooding that like happens here. And they never said anything to us about it. We felt really deflated. Like, here we go, we bought a house, we're all happy, and then we see that. And we're like, oh, I don't remember that 10 years ago, so maybe it's not that bad. Maybe it just happens once in a while. And we just saw that it just happens more and more.
At one time, when I first bought this property, it was maybe a couple of times a summer, and then it started getting chronic every month. And now, if we miss a month, we have a party. It's glory hallelujah. It's constant. It's monthly chronic flooding.
I think they're just like, oh, it comes in, it goes out, and you know, it's just something that happens every day, twice a day. For me, it's like, am I gonna lose my car? It shouldn't be like that. You shouldn't be worried every day, every time there's a high tide, that you're gonna get your house flooded or your car flooded.
One of the biggest challenges, I think, is that sea level rise is going to be with us for quite a while. We have to learn how to deal with that and still maintain a resilient community.
My name is Phil Breton. I'm from Salem, New Hampshire, and I'm a civil engineering major. I'm an innovation scholars. I'm in the ocean sensing cohort. We design sensors to get data that people can access in the communities out by like Hampton Beach in order to tackle the problem of the sunny day flooding and king tides.
Name's Jane. I am from Durham. I'm majoring in ocean engineering. We're trying to figure out ways to help the Hampton community with their increase in flooding. We're trying to develop this wave buoy that can actually track whether a storm is coming, how close it might be, so then if residents need to, they can move their cars before that flooding is predicted to occur.
I'm a civil engineering major, so when I went to Hampton, one thing that really did stand out to me was looking at how the water affected the foundations. So we're going to be mainly using a pH sensor, a conductivity sensor, and a soil moisture sensor to map out the effects of the flooding and see how pH and salinity have an effect on the soil and the foundations, because we got to see firsthand some of the effects of the flooding, and you can see kind of the corrosion in the concrete foundations of the houses.
So we'll have on-the-ground metrics that people can use, which I think is going to be a phenomenal piece of information for understanding even more about exactly where flooding is occurring and what the extent of that flooding is going to be.
Anytime we can get data from our community, it only helps us to kind of better understand what the impacts are and kind of truth test some of those models that are out there. There's a lot of studies that have done the projections of 4 feet of sea level rise, 6 feet of sea level rise. And I think for property owners and residents and people in the community, sometimes that's just hard to kind of wrap your head around. Like, what does that really look like? And so I think anytime that we can collect data where we can say, well, that 4 feet of sea level rise is equivalent to a 12-foot tide or a 14-foot tide, or whatever the tide, and we can translate those into something that's easier for people to understand, they can then also understand what the projections might be and follow that path more easily.
I think in Hampton, the most useful thing we can get out of technology is just information. We need to give people the power to make decisions in their own lives, such as moving cars, when to elevate their houses. In order to combat this problem, we need to give people the power of information in order to adapt to a changing environment.
If we could use that data so we would know, based on what's happening out in the ocean, what kind of impacts we could see in the harbor and on residential streets, I think that would be terrific.
If people have direct access to this data from the instruments we're creating, they're going to be able to take control of the science for themselves. They can make that decision for themselves based on their own interpretation of what's happening.